So I've been wanting to make this video for a while now, and I've been putting it off until I had more ability and skill when it came to video creation, but I don't think I can put it off any longer. It's way too important. Since January, we have seen the world respond to what was at first a localized novel disease, then a national one, and then it started spreading to other countries, and eventually becoming a full-blown pandemic. And some countries did a wonderful job of dealing with it. They used expert advice and adapted accordingly, and other countries didn't do such a great job handling it. America. Now, the economics of this pandemic, or as I like to call them, COVIDnomics, are very complicated. But regardless of the specific mechanisms within the economic system that led to this situation, we have been woken up to the severity and precariousness our world is locked into. Nonetheless, regardless of how well or less than ideal countries have handled this disaster and pandemic, we are still teetering on the edge of a global economic crash. Our economic system is fragile, and COVID-19 has thoroughly demonstrated how weak it really is in the face of disasters. And an even weaker economy leads to more restless, angry, and understandably scared populations, especially when disasters are not handled well, and which we can guarantee they will not be unless we start investing more energy and resources into existential risk and global catastrophic risk assessment abilities. My point here isn't to be a doomsayer. It's precisely the exact opposite. Our world is facing a myriad of obstacles in the next century. Some global existential risks which threaten our species as a whole, and others that have a much less severe ramifications on their own, but when combined with other ones, might pose really big obstacles to us. And what this is to say is our economic system currently has thoroughly shown through COVID-19 that it can't stand up to these disasters. When we have an economy here in the US that's largely based out of consumerism and rapid spending, it seems like one of the primary solutions that we can possibly have for people in the US and maybe even globally is some form of universal basic income. It seems like one possible solution to the fragility of our economic system is to ensure that pockets of millions of Americans, despite being out of work due to unforeseen or sometimes foreseen and just poorly handled disasters, keeps a little cash. But it goes so much deeper than just making sure the American economic system is running. A good economy is good because hypothetically it allows more people on average to have a higher quality of life. Now, if that's true or not in our current world is still up in the air. I personally lean towards it not being true. But the central idea there is that the economy is meant to somehow reflect the quality of life generally in a society. Obviously, that's not being as upheld in our current world as it really could be. I think if our economic system that supports our current nation-state models across the world is going to survive this next century in face of all the disasters that are impending, it has to change. A good economy should go deeper than just total economic gain. We need to revise how we measure success in our economies to account for how well the average person is doing. Without that, the inevitable instability of the next century will be primarily bared by the most economically disenfranchised. The working class has routinely taken the brunt of disasters. Look at Hurricane Katrina as just one example among hundreds. And the way our societies respond to disasters are both preemptive and responsive. We really need to make sure we're setting up a world that allows preemptive structures to be in place that protect the average person. It's not only the only way to make sure that our world doesn't become some despotic, dystopian nightmare in the face of climate change, AI, and other technological advancements gone awry, but it's also the only way to ensure that billions of people don't live lives full of inevitable tragedy and suffering. The greatest challenge of the 21st century is not if we can survive these disasters. It's if we can survive them in a way that keeps our humanity intact. It's if we can endure them with a sense of love and compassion for our fellow man, in heart and in mind, and perhaps newly found in some capacities. There are a ton of potential economic solutions that might help the average person better bear the inequality and massive economic upheaval that these disasters are bound to cause. And some might in turn actually benefit the overall system. And we're living at one of the most brilliant times in human history. There's never been so much potential for what our species can accomplish in 1 or 2 human lifetimes. But the higher we soar, the farther we grow from the ground, and the farther we have in turn to fall if we lose our track. So let's make sure our wings are on tight and we're all flying in this together. Global catastrophic risks are scary, but if there's one silver lining to them, it's the fact that they identify and highlight existing fractures in our world, problems in the way that we set up the world and go about living. If you're interested in learning more about these fractures, the problems with our worlds, and potential solutions, as well as the disasters that might highlight them, you can check out my blog. The link is in the doobly-doo below, or you can check out my podcast. Link is also down below. I want to thank you very much for watching. My name is Colin Snell, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.